Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. Happy June 1st. Welcome to summer. So I have several videos listed on my list of videos to make for my channel over here. And I was kind of going through them and I was like, should I do this one? Should I do that one? Should I do a review? Should I do this? Should I do that? And then I started thinking about the other night. So let me tell you what happened the other night, okay? I was looking for a specific book and I was like, I know this book is in this house somewhere. And for those of you that don't know, I recently went through the bookshelves over here and I cleaned out all the bookshelves, okay? And then all the books that I bought for summer, I put in the bookshelves because I bought probably, I don't know, 20 books in the last couple months for the summer that I want to read by the pool, read on the front porch and stuff like that. Down in the basement, I have cleaned out all the books. So we have this desk down in the basement. And on the desk is probably, at this point, maybe between 20 or 30 books that are kind of segmented into different things. Like graphic novels are in one section. And then books that like are paperback thrillers that I want to keep. Most of them I'm like donating and getting rid of are in one section. And then kind of like edgy, kind of artsy books are in another section. So I was going through all of these books down there and I was like, I know this book is down there somewhere, right? And, but anyway, I'll save that book for another time because I don't think, is it one of them that I found? Hold on a second, let me look through here really quick. The specific book that I was looking for. No, it was not down there. So, and I will share with you guys in a later video, because that's a whole video of its own, what that book was. And it's a series. It's the start of a series. So anyway, so I went down through the basement, or to the basement, and I started like pulling these books. And I was like, oh, I want to read this summer. Oh, I want to read this summer. So I pulled, how many books did I pull? I pulled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I pulled 8 books. And I was like, okay, I'm going to read these this summer. Some of them are rereads. Some of them are books that I haven't read in a long time. I'm not somebody that typically rereads books. Unless it's a book like Catcher in the Rye or To Kill a Mockingbird or a book that like really a couple years ago reread She's Come Undone by Wally Lamb. Unless it's a book that like has profoundly impacted me. But a couple of these books I've read before and they did have kind of an impact on me. I don't know how profound it was, but a couple of these books I don't remember at all. So let's get right into this, okay? They are all over the place. They are all completely different. We have diaries in here. We have romance in here. We have all kinds of things. So I'm going to show you what books that I pulled, okay? And these are, it's like, they're all over the place. So anyway, the first book that I pulled, and this is actually, I think somebody sent this to me a couple years ago. So for those of you that do not know, I am highly fascinated with the serial killer Eileen Wuornos. We read one of her books for a true crime book club, and then I also like had seen all the documentaries about Eileen Wuornos before, and which are really, really well done. I think it's called The Life and Death of a Serial Killer. That's 3 parts. And then I also watched a made-for-TV movie with Jean Smart, where she plays Eileen Wuornos, and then a couple years ago to me, but now probably 15 years ago, 20 years ago, Charlize Theron won an Academy Award for playing Eileen Wuornos in the movie Monster, which was a fictional depiction of her life. So a couple years ago when I was talking about Eileen Wuornos and how much I love her, somebody sent me this book, and I've never read it, and this is going to be the summer because I'm real into the diaries right now. For those of you that just saw my last video, I went and bought like all of the Go Ask Alice kind of diaries and things like that. So the book that I bought is Dear Dawn, Eileen Wuornos in Her Own Words, forward by Phyllis Chesler, edited by Lisa Kestner and Daphne Gottlieb, okay? And these are all, and there's Eileen Wuornos on the cover of it, and these are all books, or these are all letters that she wrote to her friend, okay? So let's read the back of it. Between 1989 and 1990, when I was a senior in high school, Eileen Wuornos, a hitchhiking prostitute, shot, killed, and robbed 7 men in remote Florida locations. Arrested in 1991, Wuornos insisted she had acted in self-defense, but the jury had little sympathy. Condemned to death in 6 separate counts, she was executed by lethal injection in 2002. An abused runaway who turned to prostitution to survive, Wuornos has become an iconic avenger, a queen of vigilante justice. She has also become a touchstone for women's prostitutes and prisoners' rights. Her story has inspired many books and articles, as well as the 2003 movie Monster, for which Charlize Theron won an Academy Award. But until now, Wuornos' uncensored voice has never been heard. Dear Dawn is Wuornos' autobiography culled from her 10-year death row correspondence with beloved childhood friend Dawn Bodkins, who's in some of the documentaries. Authorized for publication by Warnos and edited under the guidance of Bodkins, the letters not only offer Warnos' riveting reflections on the murders, legal battles, and media coverage, but go further, revealing her fears and obsessions, her rich humor and empathy, and her gradual disintegration as her execution approached. A candid life story told to a close confidant, Dear Dawn is a compelling narrative, unwaveringly true to its source. And I am so excited to read this. I mean, it's literally, when you look through it, it's letters. Just all letters that she wrote to her friend. So I'm really, really excited about that. Okay, the next book is a book that I've wanted to read for a couple years. I think I actually showed it on a haul a while ago. The light's gonna go in and out as I'm sitting in like total darkness right now because it's raining outside. So the light's gonna come in and out. This is not gonna be a highly edited video, obviously. At this point, we know that, right? So this author, I think I actually pulled the other book too. Oh, I didn't. Okay, so I was going to, but I read one of his books when I was like in my 20s, and I think the author is close to my age, and so several years ago, he's written maybe 3 or 4 books and has had some stories and anthologies and stuff like that. He has some books called like We Love the Smiths, We Love the Cure, things like that, where it's all like short stories based on the bands The Smiths and the Cure. So he's kind of my generation and things like that. And so that writer is Scott Heim, and he wrote a book called Mysterious Skin, which they actually turned into a movie. I saw the movie years and years and years ago. I did not love the movie as much as I loved the book. I thought the book was just really raw and riveting. I will trigger warn you that there's a lot of like essay in that book and things like that of this gay kid as he comes out and kind of like looks back on his life and things like that. He is a fantastic writer, very vulnerable, very raw. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he's problematic. I don't know anything about this man. All I know is I bought this book several years ago. And so I thought, and he hasn't like written anything in years because I've looked it up. So this is We Disappear, a novel by Scott Heim. A strange and luminous, taut and beautifully clear novel of addiction, obsession, love, and family from the acclaimed author of Mysterious Skin. The body of a teenage boy is discovered in the Kansas field. The murder haunts Donna, a recent widow battling cancer, calling forth troubling details from long-suppressed memories of her past. Hoping to discover more about disappeared people, she turns to her son, Scott, who is fighting demons of his own. Addicted to methamphetamines and sleeping pills, Scott is barely holding on, though the chance to help his mother in her strange and desperate search holds out a slim promise of some small salvation. And then it goes in to talk about like what he finds is a boy named Otis handcuffed in a secret basement room, and the questions that arise seem too disturbing even to contemplate. With his mother's health rapidly deteriorating, he must surrender to his own and unravel Otis's unsettling connections to other missing teens and ultimately to Scott himself. So I'm really excited about this book because the last book of his that I read, which was probably, I think I read it like when I first got sober or something like that, so 29 years ago, was, I mean, it just, I still remember that book to this day. Okay, now the other day I was talking about, in one of my videos, I was talking about the book Wifey by Judy Blume. Do you guys remember that book? And how, like, Judy Blume was known for writing all these kids' books, but then she came out with this adult book called Wifey. When I was growing up, and I was, like, in junior high or high school, that book was, like, dirty, dirty secret. Like, you don't talk about it, right? And so while I was going through my basement, there's, like, a lot of paperbacks that I've saved that I'm like, okay, I might want to read this at some point. Now, I know I read this when I was in high school. This isn't supposed to be as bad as Wifey, but I don't remember this book, and this is Forever by Judy Blume, a moving story of the end of innocence. Does anybody remember this book? I don't remember it, but I remember like reading it and me and my friends talking about it, but I don't remember it being like, I remember it being like a love story. Okay, touching and wonderfully true to life, the story of Catherine and Mikeron's love is a joyous one, filled with all the wonder of the first time. They meet on New Year's Eve and become completely involved with each other. It's an idyllic affair until they're separated that summer forever. Catherine faces an ancient dilemma. How can you love one person and still be attracted to another? A convincing account of first love. I have not read this book. I mean, probably since, when did it come out? I think it probably came out like the 70s or something like that. It's so funny, it has on here, books by Judy Blume, Forever, Smart Women. That was another adult book. Wifey, Letters to Judy. She's written so many more since then. Oh, it came out in 1975, so I was 3 years old when this book came out. Okay, the next book I bought this several years ago on Amazon or Thrift Books or somewhere like that. I don't know how I found it, but I ended up paying way too much money for it. This is a book that I literally can remember being in the grocery store with like two of my girlfriends. I can see it in my head, right? And we were looking at because we love to read. All my girlfriends in high school, we all loved to read, and we would read a book and then we'd pass it around. So we all passed all these books around, right? Like Pamela DeBar, I'm with the Band, and things like that. So I saw this book, and it was a romance book, and that was also the period of like Lace and by, what was her name, Shirley Conran, and then Savages that came out later that I was just talking about recently, and some other books. That was like those kind of books that would come out. Well, I bought this book, and I read it, and I literally read it overnight, and I mean, I can remember staying up to like 5 o'clock in the morning reading this book, and then I gave it to another one of my friends, and I gave it to another one of my friends, and each one of us took on like identities of the characters in the book. Okay, this book is completely out of print at this point. The book is called Amethyst by Mary Rose Hayes. I didn't have the hardback version originally. I had the paperback of this, but the paperback looked just like this, okay? Amethyst is a bold, mysterious, and thoroughly captivating novel that sweeps from the lustrous high-fashion world of now I totally understand why my friends and I wanted to read this. The high-fashion world of Manhattan to California's exotic vineyards to the provocative decadence of Paris high society, and finally to a shadowy castle. I remember there was like one guy and three sisters or something like that in the book, and of course I was the guy. In the Highlands of Scotland, haunted by a passionate legacy, 4 young women meet in an English boarding school. This is so like Lace. Each is blessed with talent and beauty. One of them has the power to predict the future. Victoria Raven, I remember which one of my... Oh my god, this is so funny. I can remember my friend being like, I'm Victoria. Victoria Raven is a pale, ghostly beauty with platinum hair. Her crystal ball is an amethyst ring, a family heirloom with which she spins the destinies of her beautiful, ambitious, and soon-to-be legendary friends. Each will be chosen for greatness, and each will be cursed with the same prophecy, that in 20 years they will be reunited, but one of them will be gone. Only time will tell who will live and who will die. I just remembered who dies. I don't know how I just remembered that. Jessie has an eye for light that will soon make her one of the world's preeminent painters. Gwyneth, never quite believing Victoria's vision of her great beauty. Why is it the only one I can remember who my friend said they were was Victoria? Probably because she's the one that has all the power. Gwyneth, never quite believing Victoria's vision of her great beauty. This is the author on the back there if you want to see. Will become the extraordinary model who captures the international fashion world. Catriona, who married, now I do remember my one friend saying she was her, who married for love and was bitterly disappointed, will finally find, because this was my friend that had like 15 boyfriends in high school. Okay, will finally find her gift for business and amass a great fortune, just as Victoria said she would. Who's the guy in here? Everything Victoria Raven had foretold for her friends has come true, except that one horrible vision, and until their dreaded reunion at the castle in Scotland, no one will know the outcome of the curse. Through a breathtaking series of dramatic events, each of these glamorous women learn that all the money, love, and beauty in the world cannot buy the future. Amethyst is as compelling as it is surprising, as romantic as it is mysterious, a classic of its kind that nobody remembers. It's what every woman wants. Oh my god. Mary Rose Hayes has led an exciting and somewhat nomadic existence as a London fashion model, a sailboat deckhand, a librarian in war-torn Northern Ireland, and a newspaper travel correspondent. Born in England, Mary Rose Hayes currently lives in San Francisco. Well, all right, Mary Rose. Does she still? I can't remember what the guy's name was in it, but that's who they all said I was. I was the guy in the book. But anyway, this was $18.95. How much are hardbacks now? I remember my stepmom when I was growing up, she would take the covers off her books. She read all these Jackie Collins and Danielle Steele books, and then she'd pass them on to me. That's why I started reading like Jackie Collins and Danielle Steele when I was like 10 or 12. So anyway, she would take them off. This is like how every one of my stepmom's books is in her house, okay? So she takes the cover off, which is why I do it now, because I learned that from my stepmom. But like, then she would like stop for a second, and she would like watch a TV show or a movie, and she would paint her nails, and all of my stepmom's hardback books had nail polish on them. I don't know how I remember that, but I used to love that. I used to like, we would watch a movie together and she would like be painting her nails on her hardback book. Such a fond memory, isn't it? I remember when we went on a family vacation to St. Martin. And I brought some book and I like ran out of it. I was like probably 12 or 13 at the time. And my stepmom brought Danielle Steele Fine Things and Jackie Collins Lucky. And that was how I fell in love with Jackie Collins at the time, which a couple years ago we read it for the book club. We read Lucky and Chances. And it was not as great the second time reading it as it was back then, but I so identified with Lucky. What was her name in the book? Why can't I think? Lucky. Santangelo. Lucky Santangelo. How did I remember that? Okay. The next one, I actually, is one of my favorite Southern writers of life, but I've read only her short stories. Maybe I've read one book of hers, but I think mostly her short stories. And, I saw somebody reading this in some movie. I can't remember what movie it was. I think it was like that Spirits on Netflix, but it was on some other channel. Some show like that, Cruel Summer or something, and that is Wise Blood by Flannery O'Connor. I bought this a while ago and I've never read it, so I thought this summer would be perfect for it. Flannery O'Connor is one of my favorite writers of life. Wise Blood, Flannery O'Connor's astonishing and haunting first novel, is a classic of 20th century literature. It's a story of Hazel Motes, a 22-year-old caught in an unending struggle against his unborn, desperate fate. He falls under the spell of a blind street preacher named Asa Hawks and his degenerate 15-year-old daughter, Sabbath Lily. In an ironic, malicious gesture of his own non-faith and to prove himself a greater cynic than Hawks, Hazel Motes founds the church without Christ, but is still thwarted in his efforts to lose God. He meets Enoch Emery, a young man with wise blood, who leads him to a mummified holy child and whose crazy maneuvers are a manifestation of Hazel's existential struggles. This tale of redemption, retribution, false prophets, blindness, blindings, and wisdom gives us one of the most riveting characters in American fiction. I cannot wait to read this. Okay. Then the next one, I had a copy of this, and then just recently I bought another copy of it. So this is my copy from the basement, and there's a copy that I just bought over there, and that's Garden of Eden by Ernest Hemingway. Now, I read a lot of Hemingway. I read, like, a lot of his books are some of my favorites, like The Sun Also Rises and things like that. There was a whole summer before I got sober that I read, like, exclusively, like, Hemingway, Gertrude Stein, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and just was, like, drinking while I was reading the books and just thought it was so romantic, right? But this was his last book that was unfinished before he passed away. And I read this, I believe I read this, like, before and after I got sober. And it's about this couple that goes to the south of France, and it has a lot to do with, like, gender, and it has a lot to do with love and things like that, and self-identification. And I remember at the time reading this book, I so related to the main female character in this book. And so I thought, you know, it's been like 30 years since I've read this, I should revisit it. Okay, so now I have 2 copies of this. I should give one away. Okay. A sensational bestseller when it appeared in 1986, which would have been when I was in 10th grade. The Garden of Eden is the last uncompleted novel of Ernest Hemingway, which he worked on intermittently from 1946 until his death in 1961. Set on the Côte d'Azur in the 1920s, is the story of a young American writer, David Bourne, his glamorous wife, Catherine, and the dangerous erotic game they play when they fall in love with the same woman. A lean, sensuous narrative, taut, chic, and strangely contemporary, The Garden of Eden represents vintage Hemingway, the master doing what nobody did better. I'm really excited to read this again. This is a summer read. The whole thing takes place in this couple staying on a beach in the south of France. Okay, then the next book is something that I, like, years ago, got this at the library, and I got it like twice, and then I was like, no, let somebody else read it. And it's by one of my all-time favorite writers, and I never read it. And then I saw it at Half Price Books like a year ago or 3 years ago maybe, and I bought it. So I was like, okay. Well, it's one of those books that I keep on saving because I love the author, but I never read it. And the author is Jerry Spinelli, and the book is called The Warden's Daughter. And Jerry Spinelli wrote Stargirl. If you've never read Stargirl, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but you need to today read Stargirl. Stargirl and more, there's Stargirl and then Love Stargirl, I think is the sequel to it. They're both fantastic. They are books that are like middle grade books, but they're really written for adults. The sentiment, I don't think you would really understand until you're an adult looking back on your life a little bit. It's about this girl that she kind of lives to the beat of her own drum, and her name is Stargirl. And the first one is about this guy that falls in love with her. They made a movie about it. I watched the movie, I think, last year. It was horrible. The movie was so bad. The book is so magical, and Love Stargirl is where she moves, and the book is very, very sad. It's a very, very sad book. Jerry Spinelli has written a couple, he's like, I think like 80 or something now if he's even still alive. He's written a bunch of other books like The Magic McGee or something like that. I've read a couple of his other books, but this one really caught my eye when I saw it. And so when I saw it at Half Price Books, I was like, I'm gonna buy this. Okay. And it's like an old, like, look. Does it say it was at the library? Or does it say, or is it just like bound like this? This is so nice. They have this like little cover on it and everything. Okay. For 12 years, the warden have been enough, but now I was sick and tired of being motherless. I wanted one, and if I couldn't have my first string mother, I'd bring one in off the bench. Cammie lives with her father, the warden, in an apartment above the entrance to the county jail. So most of the mother figures she's got her eye on are inmates. There's a flamboyant shoplifter named Boo Boo, who dreams of hot fudge sundaes, and a sullen reformed arsonist named Eloda, who works as her housekeeper. Not ideal candidates, maybe, but Cammie's nickname isn't Cannonball for nothing. She's a girl who decides what she wants and launches herself at it. And this summer, Cannonball's fuse is lit, and she is set to blow. Her best friend is discovering lipstick and Elvis. The guys she plays baseball with think she's too rough. A child killer is brought to her prison, and demonstrators are gathering outside her windows. It's the kind of summer when a girl could really use a mom. In this captivating novel by Jerry Spinelli, Cammie learns that you don't always get what you want, but what you need may just be around the corner. I'm really excited about that. Okay, the last book that I have is, when I look back on my life, and like I have oh my god, I have this thing in here, and I opened it. It was like a bookmark, and I wrote on here, this is my writing, I wrote on here, books are our friends. Oh, because I didn't used to bend pages to books. I do now. But anyway, when I look back in my life, and I have to say, like, 10 books in my life that really profoundly impacted me or that I loved, this is definitely one of them. And I've looked at some of his other work and I didn't really love it, and I don't have the cover for it anymore, but the book is called Back on Tuesday by David Gilmour, okay, and I don't obviously have a synopsis to read to you, so I'm just going to kind of give you a synopsis. It's about this guy, and he goes on a trip to Jamaica, which is where he met his ex, and he brings his very young daughter along with him, and the whole thing is told over the time of like 2 days, and he goes and he stays in this hotel that he stayed in with his ex years and years and years ago, and his life is kind of falling apart at this point, and he's in this drunken haze the entire trip. His daughter's like asleep in the hotel room, and he has somebody like looking over her, and he is like just wandering down streets of places that he used to go with his girlfriend when they first met or first went to Jamaica like 10 years before that, and he's lost her, he's lost his job, he's lost everything, and it's just this complete alcoholic bender over the period of like 2 days. Back on Tuesday means he'll be back home on Tuesday kind of thing. And I don't really, to be honest with you, remember how this book ends. I do remember that like his daughter is kind of the salvation of all of this. And it's also her kind of seeing her father for the alcoholic that he is. And she has this like idolization of him and really seeing him for who he is and him making some changes because he wants to be this better dad for her. It is such a phenomenal book. I have not read it in years, and I cannot wait to read it again this summer. And this is a book that takes place like on hot nights in Jamaica, like in August. And so I'm really excited about reading this again this summer. So, Back on Tuesday by David Gilmour, Gilmour. Anyway, those are all the books that I got. Well, those are the books that I brought up for. There's one other one, and it's called, is it over there? Did it fall on the floor? It's called Laura Ingalls Wilder is Ruining My Life, and I bought it a couple years ago at Half Price Books, and it's about this girl who, her mother moves, she's like obsessed with Laura Ingalls Wilder, and she moves the whole family, she's a writer, I think. She moves her whole family to Walnut Grove, which is where Laura Ingalls Wilder is from, like in the books, the Little House on the Prairie's books. And so then she's like writing this book about Laura Ingalls Wilder. And so it's this girl telling her story about how her mom moved the whole family there because she's obsessed with Laura Ingalls Wilder. So the book's called Laura Ingalls Wilder is Ruining My Life. I grew up in Little House on the Prairie. I love Little House on the Prairie. I love everything about it. And so I thought that would be a fantastic book. It has like a cabin on the front of it. And like this girl looking out of the top window. So anyway, that's the other book that I brought up. It must be over there on the chair. I put them over there and they started falling off. So anyway, those are just some of the picks. I've got like 10 books, 20 books, 30 books over here on the bookshelves I plan on reading this summer. We all know that that's not going to happen, but I'm very excited about bringing out a bunch of books this summer. I'm so excited for a summer of reading. Let me know what you're reading in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.